It's not getting any cooler, so we're gonna get started. Few admin notes before we get started. Please make sure your phones are silent, shut off. The nearest bathroom that we have is in the museum. That's behind us across the parking lot in the big white building. Water is located in 2 coolers, probably in the back of the canopies. So make sure you stay hydrated. It is kind of warm out here. Be very careful. We had some guests last night come in and excavated the ground, some armadillos, and there's little pot marks. Most of those have been filled in, but the ground is still a little soft and a little uneven, so be very, very careful when you're walking around. And also, please be very careful of the stakes for the canopies. We don't want anybody falling and getting hurt. If there is any kind of need for any kind of medical care, we've got an ambulance standing by. For somebody that comes out here wearing a coat and tie on a day like this, you know, I'll probably be the first guy to get a chance to use it. He's fine. He's just looking. Okay, for the Vietnam veterans, are there any of them here? Welcome home. Hey, welcome to the 195th Assault Helicopter Company Memorial Dedication. This has been a long time coming. The unit redeployed from Vietnam in December 70, so it's been close to 48 years. At least that's my math. From the initiation of the concept for this, we've worked a full 2 years to today's dedication and to where we're at right now. Thank all of you for traveling here to share this with each other. I realize that traveling is not always easy, and the monetary investment in the memorial, the luncheon, the travel, and everything else that you've done to get here is not insignificant. Thank you very much for coming. We'd planned to conduct this event before the temperatures rose and before the humidity was at 1,000% as it is today, but it is what it is. Mother Nature has a vote, and we're going to deal with it. Didn't sleep well last night, woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was raining. And I just resigned myself to the fact that it is what it is, and we're going to probably end up in the museum, but as it's turned out to be a beautiful day. My name is Bruce Miller, member of the 195th for a very brief period of time from January to June of 1970. Didn't leave the unit voluntarily. I was pulled out and sent across the street to fly taxi service for Corps Aviation Unit. But I saw you every day, and my heart sunk tremendously in December whenever the unit had to repaint its helicopters from the camouflage to the OD green. Okay, firstly, this event honors our fallen and their families. And again, I was really impressed and appreciate the family members showing up for this. This is for you. It honors all of us who served in the 195th in Vietnam, including those unable to attend with us today, and for those that we have lost since coming back home. Finally, the event honors the soldiers we carried and delivered from harm's way, the long-range reconnaissance patrols, the Green Berets, the indigenous Vietnamese and Cambodian soldiers who served with the Military Assistance Command Vietnam and the Observations Group in Command and Control South. They were all very special people. If you would please stand for the national anthem. remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, please remain standing for the invocation to be delivered by Paul Fitch.
Heavenly Father, we are here today to honor the memory of 11 soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice in support of ground operations in Southeast Asia. These soldiers answered the call of their country at a time when it was neither fashionable nor popular to do so. We have placed this stone engraved with the names of the fallen to be a perpetual memory of the men who paid the ultimate price to protect our country and their fellow soldiers. And while this memorial is dedicated to all who served in the 195th in combat and the soldiers we served, it is with deep appreciation for your protection that only 11 of us paid that price. We thank you for the safe travel of those here and ask your blessings on them as they return to their homes. We also ask your blessings on all who serve our country today, from the rawest recruit to the commander-in-chief. Hold them in your hand and protect them from danger. Give them the wisdom, the training, and the leadership to keep out of harm's way as they serve. We commend the soul of these 11 and all the members of the 195th who have left us since their service, and ask that they be given eternal rest in your presence. Amen.
Thank you, Paul. Please be seated. Not that any war is popular, but ours was emphatically unpopular. Despite the violence in the street at home, and the confusion it created in our own minds, we did what was expected of us. Not all of us made it back. We're especially honored to have the families of two of our soldiers that gave their all for what they believed to be duty, honor, and country. Unfortunately, I see that Jagler family has not made it at this point. The Smiths, however, have. Thank you very much for attending this ceremony. I'm sorry. They did indeed make it. We're also fortunate to have with us a soldier, a former commander, who a number of you have served while in Vietnam. I'd like to welcome Pete Vines to the podium. Pete entered the Army in 1954, it's a little bit earlier than what I did, most of you, and was commissioned in 1955. Following airborne training and flight school, Pete was subsequently assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division, the 1st Cavalry Division. His first tour with Vietnam was with the 25th Infantry Division in 1966 and 67, followed by a second tour with the 195th of his commander from January to July 1969. Pete retired with 28 years in service as a full colonel in 1982, attaining 4,800 hours, it's a lot of flight time, of fixed and rotor wing aircraft time. For those of you who live in the South, you know that the azalea is one of our favorite flowers. Well, what's this have to do with the time of day? Pete's post-retirement interests have been in developing hybrid azaleas. If you have any interest in flowers, as I do, you will certainly appreciate his efforts in this field to improve this southern favorite. Pete.
Good morning. You notice I don't miss a chance to say hello to a pretty lady. Let me get my cheat sheet here. But welcome to members of the 195th, your family, our friends and guests. And I said members of the 195th because once inducted, you're always a part of the team. What I call a blessed band of soldiers. taken a long time for us to reach this point, but rest assured, we've never forgotten. Let me digress a moment and tell you something about the nature of the 195th and our mission, such that it called for unusual things on the part of your loved ones. The unit was signed from Fort Carson in November of 1967. Their first combat mission was the 30th of November, 1967. And on 1 December 67, the unit was assigned to the special mission. The special mission was a classified mission operating in areas outside of Vietnam. Technically, we were not authorized to be there, and frankly, had very little support, other than what we took in with us. We were the only Army aviation unit assigned with the exclusive mission of supporting SOG, CC South, or Delta, and the various acronyms for the units that we were inserting. Generally, the teams we put in, they were special forces teams, generally composed of 6 men, into areas of Cambodia and Laos on 3 to 6 day reconnaissance missions and intelligence gathering. The unique part of the mission was that you never knew what you was going to encounter. You just knew that you was going to encounter it. No matter what it was, how well you planned, something always happened. An interesting sidelight of the 195th, and I guess my better half recommended I delete this, but I couldn't because we had somebody for humor. We had the only camouflage painted helicopters in Vietnam to allow us some benefit in terms of egress and entrance. But it also identified the unit. Anything that a camouflage helicopter did, we were the bandits. Well, one of my intrepid warriors had developed a sign. It was a 3-letter sign that they attached under the helicopter. And it advised the United States Army headquarters in Vietnam to engage in a sexual act upon themselves. And it was my warrior's way of getting back to the system. Once this aircraft was seen, there was immediate search trying to find out who it was. We never found it. You can imagine we really searched hard. But it was not my guys. Somebody else was painting a helicopter to do that. My guys, they were too clean-cut and innocent. They would have never done something of this nature. And I still wonder who it was, Bill. I joined the 195th in early February of 1969, at which time I'd been flying 13 years, previously served in Vietnam, in 66, 67 flying gunships. It was totally different. My first tour, we were cleaning up the state's old pilots. Suddenly, I've got a band of young bandits. I mean, these kids are 18 to 23. They're full of it. And they look at me, I'm an old man. I'm 34 years old. He's ancient. He doesn't understand. We had 67 aviators and approximately 325 listed personnel, mechanics, technicians, crew chiefs, door gunners. Every pilot we had come directly from flight school. Now, we had a great number on extensions, but that's their experience. Their experience had been in Vietnam. And it was fearless. They feared nothing. It was my biggest concern, they feared nothing, you know. They feared nothing. You know, you had to really be really harsh at times to get their attention. Beat them over the head with a stick. But anyway, what a wonderful, I call them, band of brothers. It was my privilege to command. We had nothing. Poor living conditions. We lived in tents, while other units had barracks. Nobody had air conditioning but me, right? Never understood that. I don't know. No amenities, but we had each other. Never did I know such an unselfish group of men. There was no concern regarding race, color, creed, religion, always supporting each other. Again, what I call my loyal band of brothers. It was truly my great fortune to command this organization. And although I commanded larger organizations, there was nothing that I had during my career that gave me the personal satisfaction of being allowed to serve with the men of the 195th. It was the finest unit that I ever served. An example of this, the finest, was we run an operation north of the Fishhook area in Cambodia. It was in late February, early March, 1969. We lost 7 helicopters that day. You know, usually if you lose 2, you get relieved. You got a big time, go 7. They don't know what to do with you. Then we lost another one that night. During this most trying period, and among significant casualties, I watched the men of the 195th at their finest. Never wavering, frequently against really difficult odds and a great personal risk, continuing to ignore their personal safety while doing their mission of caring for fallen comrades. An example of this attitude of dedication of these young warriors occurred during this mission. It's only characteristic of the unit. I could cite 10, 12 other examples easily. I discovered one of my young pilots, Lieutenant Jack Birmingham. He had a hacksaw. It was in a rear area, but not back at base camp. And he was cutting his flight helmet. He was cutting a 3 to 4 inch notch out of the flight helmet. Why? Because he's got a round in the side of his head. It's lodged between his skull and the skin, and he's got a baseball-sized knot there, and he can't get his flight helmet on over this, and he's not going to surgery. And you know, what do you do with young men like this? But love them. You know, I beat Jack up, but that's okay. He was a little guy. But, by the way, I saw Jack in Anchorage, I guess 2 years ago. He's retired there. He went to law school after high school, and doing well. But this is an example of the men that I was fortunate enough to serve. Now to honor our fallen comrades, and in order of their passing, Specialist for Robert Wayne Ellis, 20 February 1968. Charles David Jagler, 9 October 1969, whose memory is honored today by his brother George and 2 nephews, Stephen and David, I think, are back then. Specialist 4th Class Antonio Maria Vasquez, 9 October 1969. Captain John Patrick Brennan, 9 October 1969. Specialist 4th Class Richard Allen Smith Sr., 9 October 1969, whose memory is honored today by his sister, Janice Lathan Smith, and other family members. Specialist 4th Class Edward Rowe Smiley Jr., 4 December 1969. Chief Warrant Officer Charles Garvin Dugan, 5 March 1970. Sergeant James Lawrence Howell, 5 March 1970. First Lieutenant Robert Ira Rabb, 5 March 1970. Specialist 4th Class Devlin Smith. Excuse me, I'm wrong. It's James Devlin Smith, 5 March 1970. Specialist 4th Class Leslie, Specialist 4th Class Michael Joe Higginbotham, 6 June 1970. I say in passing, go in glory, you valiant young men. You were brave beyond all reason, and we are proud to have you as our brothers. I extend my gratitude on behalf of a grateful nation and your loving comrades. You made a difference, and we'll always remember. Thank you.
We've talked some about us. I want to say just a few words about the people we supported. We had a corps of professionals, the aircraft commanders who flew out of Quan Loy, which is where we supported the Command and Control South Special Studies and Observation Group, the Special Forces guys. We worked out of Quan Loy. They'd rotate young guys, the Peter pilots, to go up to Quan Loy and spend a period of time. I can't remember what it was, a week, 2 weeks, a month. It was my turn to go up. When I landed at Quan Loy and was shown where my hooch was going to be, it was in a concertina barbed wire area that was separate from everything else on Quan Loy. I wasn't sure what I'd gotten myself into. It was there that they kept the mission, the planning, everything else that took place for what we did, where we flew these guys, absolutely classified. I've always been in awe of the soldiers that we supported. We dropped them off into some of the most inhospitable environments that you could possibly imagine. I've flown for extended periods of time over triple canopy forest to only go into a tiny, tiny little LZ that my aircraft commander wouldn't let me look outside. My job was to read the instruments to him as he descended, based on the instructions of the gunner and the crew chief, into this area 100, 150 feet below. When I looked up, I snuck a peek out of the cockpit. When I looked up, it scared me to death because I couldn't see the sky. The crew chief and the gunners, pilot and co-pilot, worked together to work that aircraft down onto the ground to drop off our soldiers. And from there, they went out into no man's land. I've had the opportunity to talk to two folks. Carl Vincel, who on the 30th of April of 1970, him and his team were pulled out of harm's way, almost certain death, by crews of the 195th. Fred Lindsay, who was the commander of Command and Control South at Quan Loy, I got an email from him yesterday. Both were planning to attend. Fred's wife is ill. Carl had some construction issues going on at the house that went awry, so he had to stay for that. But what I like to do is read just a few lines that Fred Lindsay sent to me yesterday. Please extend my congratulations and deep appreciation to all your fellow warriors of the 195th Assault Helicopter Company for their heroic actions in Vietnam. Your Sky Chiefs, Ghost Riders, and Thunder Chickens were responsible for our enormous success that I've described in our book. If you haven't got it, this is it. In it, I describe all the valiant and skilled pilots and crewmen who were responsible for saving the lives of many of our recon teams who ran our missions behind lines in Cambodia primarily. Your unit was the finest support of any of the Army Assault Helicopter Company units that we had support provided to us from, and will always be the most indebted for your service. The best of the best. This event came together with the efforts of many folks. As I mentioned, this memorial was not inexpensive, and without your contributions, this would never have happened. It's beautiful. If you've seen it online, it's even more impressive here as we unveil it. But I'd like to thank everyone for their contributions, and especially for traveling here, most especially for the families who came. This makes it very special. I'd like to honor or identify some of the specific people who we owe a debt of gratitude in bringing this all together. And if you have an opportunity, as you see them about, please thank them for what they've done to make this possible. Okay. Hubert, Fayard, and Gary Wright, they comprise the committee who put all this together. Okay, you know them, I think, very well. I'm sure that you will be glad to know that the badgering, Hubert's badgering you for money and for other information is about to come to an end.
I don't think so.
Okay. Henry Wilford. He's not a member of the 195th, but at this point, if it were my power, Henry would be designated as an honorary member. Henry and I worked together for 5 years. I don't know if many of you remember the Aviation Digest of years and years gone by. It died a death in 1995. And for 18 years, the Army did not publish a professional bulletin like all the other branches. But Henry and I put it back together, and for the past 5 years, that's what we did until I retired in October. As a professional graphic designer, he volunteered his time and his skills to design our memorial. He provided detailed files of the approved design, and believe it or not, working with the stonemason, the lady that controlled the place, was a major challenge. He worked through all the details and made sure all the names were spelled correctly and made sure all the details on the monument were as they were expected to be. Okay. He's with us now. Henry, if you would please stand up so everybody recognizes you. You don't have your name tag on. But he'll be with us at the luncheon today, so please, when you see him, walk up and thank him. Major Greg Merritt. I see him back in the shadow. He was Henry and my boss while we worked at the Directorate of Training and Doctrine, working on the Aviation Digest. He's a major, but his youthful energy and enthusiasm pushed me along, helped me a lot at times when I was getting discouraged, and it was his efforts that helped get our programs put together. 1st Aviation Brigade. Major Merritt will also be attending the luncheon with us today, so again, he's the one wearing the green suit. I think you'll be able to recognize him fairly easily. 1st Aviation Brigade, for providing our colors, our parent unit in Vietnam. Everyone's parent unit in Vietnam. Forces Command and the Fort Rucker Garrison Command for permitting us to donate and place our memorial here in Veterans Memorial Park. And last but not least is the Fort Rucker support team, Joe Harris. Nothing is done on a government installation without coordination for permits, medical backup, sound systems, security clearances, and a host of other challenges that would have just driven me absolutely crazy if I'd had to have done it by myself. Joe Harris has done this for many units that you see represented here in Memorial Park, and as a result, all of these memorial functions have gone off basically without a hitch. While this is his job, there's more to it than that. As a retired sergeant major, as a retired soldier, his heart is into it. And Gary can attest to that, as well can Hubert, because of the things he did to help put this together. So Joe, thank you very much. Joe Garcia for filming this. We will get at the end of this memorial a CD and a DVD that we will have reproduced and try to make sure that everyone gets a copy of this, and also to ensure that the people who weren't able to travel here are able to see what's taking place. And Lance come out here early this morning. He even beat me out here this morning with setting up the sound system. He's working by himself. He didn't want me touching any of the electrical cables or anything else like that to help him, so that's why everything is working. Okay, most of you have already seen our memorial on the 195th website, so this is no real surprise to you. It's much more impressive in real life, and what I'd like to do is have Hubert and Gary please come forward. They will unveil our memorial. I personally think it's one of the prettiest memorials out here at the park. I may be a little prejudiced, but that's the way that it is. Okay, as I call the names for our fallen soldiers, I would like to, for those who have identified, and I didn't get a chance to speak to the Jagler family, but when I call names, please come forward, pick up a rose off the table, and place it at the base of the memorial. And Janice, as I told you, your entire family may come up when I call names. At the close of the ceremony, if you'd like to take the rose and take it home, that's fine. Robert Wayne Ellis. John Patrick Brennan. Charles David Jagler. Richard Allen Smith, Sr. Antonio Maria Vasquez. Edward Rowe Smiley, Jr. Charles Garvin Dugan. Robert Ira Rabb. James Lawrence Howe. James Devlin Smith. Michael Joe Higginbotham. And finally, you'll notice there's one rose left. This will be for the 195th Helicopter Company. its soldiers, past and present. Pete.
Go with God, you brave young men.
Okay, this concludes our memorial dedication. They're expecting us at the landing at 11:45. If you're not familiar with where the landing is at, go back out to Ruff Avenue, the road you come in on, turn left, second light, continue on through past headquarters building, and the landing, which used to be the officers club for those who had been here 100 years ago, is on the left. Large parking lot on the right side. When you go into under the canopy into the main entry way, our dining room will be on the right side. And helicopter flights this afternoon at 1400. If you haven't signed up for it and still want to fly, come on down. And we'll have a static display in there as well. There'll be 2 Hueys and there'll be a Cobra there. Fine. Oh, I'm sorry, Novacell Street. I've only been in here 1,000 times. Novacell Street, turn left and follow the instructions that I had issued earlier. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
I can't complain.
I was a bad soldier. Were we soldiers, Gary? Were we soldiers once, Gary? Well, I got a number.
Had to put all the bling on today before I left.
That's rugged, I guess. It's not painful. Oh, it's not painful at all.
You, Rick Cooper, Tom Pate.
I ran into Cooper all back. He went to a call from him. He had trouble about a year or two ago. He was going to stand by. He was traveling somewhere.
Yeah, I remember you.
Still there?
Yeah, we're still there.
I don't remember you.
Where you live?
A town called Gatesville, Texas.
Gatesville, Texas.
The crew chief in the end, the last flight was a guy named Tommy Wagner. He's out of, I think, Illinois. And, I looked for him for years and years and years because I thought he was from Oklahoma. I was looking in the wrong state.
What time is it now? 10 to 11. That's fine. We'll go.
Where you get? South Carolina. I'm over there. I'm pretty close to Yes.
I want to ask you, still have 50 cal on CNC?
Yeah. You know, we
I was responsible for that.
okay, well, come on. You know, we had a little problems with the recoil and the frame. We sure did. We sure did. And used it.
Well, that originally it was Jeep springs, so that thing was mounted on. And
used to use it. I love to use it at night also. With I put a bomb rack.
I thought they were on CNC.
They start firing us.
Oh, they matter of fact, they were. I think one was crew chief and one was but they weren't killed. I know who you're talking about.
As soon as Bob gets out of the way, because I can't. I don't want good-looking people around me. Let's go.
Lieutenant Rapp and Dugan.
Yeah, Rob and Dugan. There was a whole bunch of us.
That's how the body bags come back.
Yeah, exactly. And if I remember.
I was with Mike slinging them.
Okay, I don't remember that, but we went in and put people on the ground. Because I remember the black-haired doc. They had a doc. He was on the ground going through
It's
the.
7.
I don't know what he was, but he was going through the aircraft picture. You're right. Hey, look here. Try to keep something going on Saturday because you know more than we do.
Okay. Thank you. We need them gingers.
Okay, everybody look this way. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You got it?
That's not good.
I don't think it's